When was the last time that you read something? And I'm not just talking about a novel, and I'm not talking just about preparing for lessons for your kids, but when was the last time that you read something because you wanted to know about the thing? Do you remember? Do you remember when the last time was? So I feel as moms, as grandmas, as dads, we tend to be entirely outward facing. We educate, we organize, we feed, we drive, we research curriculum, we answer questions. But at what point did we stop cultivating our own minds? Well, that's what I want to talk about today, is a concept that enables us as parents to cultivate our own minds and inspire our children to do the same. And so today I want to talk about the historic practice of creating a commonplace book. And this is mine. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Hello, my friends. My name is Janae Daniels. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a former middle school teacher turned homeschool mom, educational mentor, independent researcher, and really lover of all things education. My aim is to help families reclaim the hearts and the minds of their children and rediscover the beauty of true education. Welcome to the School to Homeschool podcast. Okay, several months ago, I interviewed Mega Lily White, and she's an autodidact, right? She self-studies. She's always been a self-starter, a self-learner. And she talked about how she naturally, as a child, started keeping what the term is a commonplace book. Historically, commonplace books are not new. And for those of you who are big Charlotte Mason fans, I get a lot of emails that are like, "Oh my goodness, you do a lot of Charlotte Mason." Y'all, a lot of this stuff was pre-Charlotte Mason. Charlotte Mason just happened to write down some of the principles and practices that people were already doing. The Commonplace Book is one of those things. And I think she calls them motto books. But essentially they go back thousands of years. The Greeks and the Romans would where they'd hear bits of wisdom and bits of knowledge and write them down. I even heard recently someone say that they think Marcus Aurelius with meditations, that was a little bit based on his commonplace book, right? Where he wrote things down. So I guess I should define first, what is a commonplace book? It's a little bit different than a journal, right? When we write in a journal or write in a diary, we are writing down our thoughts, our experiences. We might chronicle the events of our day, and it's all inward. This is how I felt. This is, what I was thinking. This is what happened. Versus, it's a commonplace book is a collection of ideas, observations, quotations, poems, questions, any sort of wisdom that you feel is worth preserving that you don't want to forget. And so versus like, this is how I feel or think or what's going on in my mind, or, a diary, what happened to me, a journal is what I'm thinking and feeling, which really, to me, a diary and a journal are the same thing. The commonplace book is, okay, what have I encountered in my studies, in my life that is worth keeping that I don't want to forget? So historically, why would people keep commonplace books? Why would somebody spend hours writing something into a notebook? Well, because writing is part of learning it. When we write something down, it helps us to retain that information. It helps us to learn that information. People back then were not consuming information at the speed that we do today. They'd encounter an idea, they would stop, they considered it, they copied it, they remember it, they would then again later return to it. And eventually the notebook became a map of their intellectual life. So I want you to contrast that with what we do today, which is we get online, we scroll, we stop and read something and we forget, and then we read and we scroll and we forget, and nothing really, really sticks. I have been guilty in the past of like taking pictures of like screenshots of like quotes that I've liked from Instagram, only to have them somewhere on my phone with the tens of thousands of other pictures that I have taken of various things, from my family to something that I've wanted to buy on Amazon, right? And haven't purchased yet. And yet those quotes just get lost in the shuffle. Well, the Commonplace Book enables us to pause long enough to write that quote or thought down. Now, some people even include art in their Commonplace books, whether it's they clip pictures of things that are important that they want to remember. And I'm not talking about future Amazon purchases. They might paint in their Commonplace books. They might see a beautiful sunset and want to capture it and paint it. I am not a good enough painter to do that myself. In some ways, we've talked about the nature journal in the past. And with a nature journal, you pause to capture that item, that twig or that pine cone or that seashell, and then write about it. Well, a Commonplace Book does similar things, but it's for ideas. And we can paint, we can draw, we can add other things to the Commonplace Book. But it's one place where we can keep things that we don't want to forget. Okay, so something that we've lost is attention. In our society, we tend to have 47 tabs open on our computer. I'm looking at my computer right now going, I have 47 tabs open, hundreds of pictures saved on Instagram, screenshots. We've got books on our nightstands, podcasts and YouTube videos that we've saved for later that we may never come back to. And maybe this is just me. And those things tend to be forgotten. But when we write them down, these thoughts and ideas that we encounter from other people and other sources, that enables us to keep them in one place and things that we can share with our children. So you can put a passage in there. You could put a story or idea. There are actually no rules to Commonplace books. Now, I have heard people try to give rules to the Commonplace Book, and but they're terrifically personal and intimate for our own lives. They would give people like, let's say I die tomorrow and people would look at my Commonplace Book. It would absolutely give a snapshot into my life, not so much because I've written anything about what I'm feeling or believing, but people will see some of the things that are important to me. So in order to do a Commonplace Book, y'all, you don't have to get an expensive diary. You can just get a spiral notebook and start. I had been gifted this it's a little tiny notebook. It's not very big. It's big enough that I can carry it in my purse with me. And so you don't want them. I guess the one rule people have said who have done Commonplace books for a long time is don't make them too big, because you want to be able to carry it with you so that you can write things down easily. Now, I know many of you are like, yeah, I already do that in my phone and I write notes in my phone. And I did that as well. Like, that was me. I would write all these notes in my phone of, like, I'd hear something on a podcast I was listening to and I'd stop and I'd record it on my phone. But I started carrying the Commonplace Book with me, and it's so much easier for me to go back and look at my notes in my Commonplace Book than like scroll through all the notes on the Notes app in my phone. And I've actually kind of loved it. So find a notebook. This is what you're going to do. You're going to find a notebook, a little enough one that you can carry it with you. Some people do even really tiny ones. That's not me. This one is good for me. And you're going to write your name in it. You might even write the date that you're starting it. And then read something. Read something interesting. Maybe you're reading the scriptures. Maybe you're in a good book. Not that novels can't give you great quotes, because actually one of the quotes that I wrote down, I'll just read it to you. I've been reading, actually I'm on my second time through this series. It's called maybe my third time through the series. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's called The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. And it's a fun fiction story that takes place in the 1880s in London. And one of the characters in the book said something that made me stop, and I had to write it down. So I'll share it with you. It says that every day should leave some part free for the Sabbath of the heart. Young Hawks says that in book 8 of Emma M. Lyon. And it stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't want to forget that. Some of the other quotes in my Commonplace book, my prayer is that when I die, all of hell rejoices that I am out of the fight. And C.S. Lewis said that. My Commonplace book has become a place of important quotes and scriptures. Just the other night, I was once again, I was in the New Testament, and I thought, I don't want to forget this scripture. And so I wrote it down here in my Commonplace book. Where is it? Yeah, Matthew 7, 7 and 7, 8. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth. And to him that knocketh, it shall be opened. So the beautiful thing about the Commonplace book is it allows us to pause long enough to write something down. And again, I feel like, and again, some of you are going to argue like, no, the notes app in your phone is good enough. I thought that too, until I started my own Commonplace book and started recording those bits and pieces and little nuggets of wisdom that I didn't want to forget. And I don't have to scroll again. I don't have to scroll my phone to try to find them. So this is something that I haven't introduced to my kids yet. My now 18-year-old daughter naturally has been keeping a Commonplace book of quotes that she has loved. Even at one point, she recorded like several pages of one of the Anne of Green Gables series, books in the Anne of Green Gables series, because she was so affected by what was written. And she didn't, at the time, I didn't even know that was like a Commonplace book was an actual thing, right? I had no idea. And that's what she was naturally doing. And so this is my challenge. Today is a little bit shorter of a podcast episode. My challenge for you is to learn something yourself, right? Read a book because you want to learn something new and something cool, not because you're preparing for homeschooling, or just because you're trying to become more productive, but because you just want to learn something new. And for 7 days, I want you to read for 10 minutes. For 7 days, here's your challenge. Read for 10 minutes for 7 days. And every day, find one thing that strikes you that you feel is important enough to write down and remember. Also, that could go for even if you hear something on a podcast or you see something in a YouTube video or whatnot. Oh, I was watching a YouTube video about minimalism, and what they said struck me about education. I was actually in the car. I pulled over, and then I wrote it in my Commonplace book, because thankfully I wasn't on the highway or anything. I was like near the grocery store, and I had to go to the grocery store anyway. So I pulled over and I wrote it down. This is what it said. My dream is to be a minimalist, y'all. I'm not anywhere close to there. I kind of feel like I'm a maximalist, wanting to be a minimalist, but I'm not there. Learning is doing something you don't know how to do while you are in the process of doing it. I love that quote. So this is your challenge for the next 7 days, mamas and papas and grandmas and grandpas. You are to get a notebook. It doesn't have to be special. Get any sort of notebook. Maybe you find a really pretty one at Barnes & Noble's. That works too. Or you just get a spiral notebook because they were just on sale at Walmart for like 38 cents. You get a notebook. You're going to write your name in it. And for the next 7 days, you're going to read something for 10 minutes every day. And then you're going to write something that you learned that day that you don't want to forget. And for those of you that are like, that still may be too much, and you're still scrolling Instagram, maybe it's a quote that you see on Instagram, and instead of taking a picture of the quote or saving it for later, you write it down, physically write it down in your Commonplace book. Let's bring this practice back, y'all. So that's your challenge this week, is to start your own Commonplace book. You can write a sentence. It could be a full quote. It could be an idea. It could be a question. It could be an observation, but write it down. Write it down. Y'all know that my objective is to help families take the hearts and minds of your children back. Like, that's the whole reason I started the podcast, is I wanted parents to be able to have the hearts and minds of their kids back and to truly rediscover education with their children. Perhaps this enables you to take your own mind back and rediscover education for yourself. I mean, that's one of the beauties of homeschooling, is that we get to learn alongside our children things that we may have forgotten, or in some cases, never learned, like Roman numerals for me. Yeah, never learned how to read Roman numerals. With my kids now, I'm learning it. Y'all, the Commonplace Book lets us remember that we are still students, that we don't have to stop growing and learning. And the best part is that we can be better examples for our children. Education isn't something that we should just give our kids. It's something that we should also give ourselves. So, welcome back to being a student. Let's start a Commonplace Book. I'd love to hear how your Commonplace Book goes over the 7 days. Mamas and papas, grandmas and grandpas, it's time to take our own education back. You are doing better than you think you are. You've got this, and we will talk next week.